All right, welcome into Titans by Two. This is what, episode 6 now, Brett?
It is episode 6.
Episode 6. We are happy to be with you guys. Austin Nelson, Brett Batchelor, and we are with a new friend of ours, Mr. Justin Graver. You guys might know him by @Titans Film Room on Twitter. For all those guys who follow @Titans Film Room, we are with the one and only Justin. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks a lot for having me on. I'm excited to be here. This is cool.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate it. So if you guys don't know Justin, Justin is the guy that you might see the gifs of running through your Twitter line if you're a Titans fan. Watches, analyzes, dissects the game film from the games. And he also writes for SB Nation's Music City Miracles as a contributor. So we are very happy to have you, man. We appreciate your time.
All right. Yeah, this is going to be a fun thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully we can do it more than once too, because me and Brett talk about you a lot, and just we see your work. And I'm gonna throw this out here, man. How do you get the gifts out there so fast?
So fast.
Because it might be the first quarter and the first drive, and you'll see the first play 6 minutes later.
Well, I appreciate the love. Thanks for that. And you know, it was kind of tricky actually, because during the Raiders game, I was planning to just like follow on Twitter, see when a big play was going to happen, and then I watch on Sunday Ticket because I live in LA, so I don't get the games. But I wasn't quick enough, so I didn't get. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't really get any plays from the Raiders game live. So then the next week, I just started screen capturing from the first play. So I just basically recorded the whole game, and then commercial break. Stop recording, edit the clip really quick, and get it up as fast as I can.
It's a good way to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fun watching you break down the games and talk about a whole lot, because I could see that you have a passion for it. And for those who don't know, just go through his Twitter and just find the different threads of players that he's analyzed and broke down.
There's so many of them. So many.
Yeah, thanks.
Fill me in if I'm wrong, though, Justin. You got guys like Marcus Mariota thread. We have a DeMarco Murray thread, Jarrell Casey thread. We just got the Brett Kern thread, so the punter love was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think you got some guys in between there, but yeah, we love your work, man. So let's dive in to the Seahawks game. The Titans got it done for back-to-back wins against the Seahawks this past weekend with a 33-27 score, and it got scary towards the end. I don't know if the guys would pull it out or not, because the Titans were used to seeing the Titans do some Titans things and blow games in the end. So it got there for a second, but we saw some good things and saw some things that the Titans could clean up. They gave up 433 yards to Seattle, which was not a very good offense. So seeing that was not pleasant. Let Russell Wilson throw for a career high with 373 yards. So that's always nice when you let another guy put up career high numbers. And if you had Russell Wilson in fantasy, that was a good week to do so.
Yeah, seriously.
So Brett, both you guys chime in. What did you think about the game?
Overall, I thought it was pretty solid, of course, because, the Titans came out with the victory. The first quarter, again, was kind of sloppy. The Titans have continued over the first 3 games to start out, a little slow, which is not necessarily the best thing to see. But if they start out slow and they finish strong, then, it's not necessarily a bad thing. One thing that I did like is coming off a week when Chris Carson for Seattle, who's playing running back for them now, is playing well. The Titans only held him to 34 yards and 69 yards totally as the Seahawks rushing attack. So coming from a defense that's ranked 28th in the league, that's something that I did like to see. So, they came out firing more in the second half. We saw that they put up a ton of points in the third quarter overall too. So overall, I liked what I saw. It's just hard to not get frustrated when you see multiple slow starts throughout the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good sign that the team can have 4 3-and-outs in a row and then bounce back and still put up solid numbers on offense. But it is frustrating, and I don't know if it's on Mariota or if it's on the receivers, but the connection isn't there yet. And I don't think it's on Mariota, but I don't know. That connection is slow to develop, just as it was last year.
I completely see what you're saying, because you saw that for those first 4 drives and whatnot, there were some passes high, some miscommunication with the route being maybe a post or a dig or whatever it was. So I can definitely see that. There's some high passes Marcus threw to Rashard Matthews, and he, of course, big play Rashard's going to go up there and get it. We can always count on him. But I completely see what you're saying too, Justin. What I noticed a lot, me and Brett talked about this last week, was we would think that Derrick Henry would have got more carries because of the DeMarco nursing the hamstring or whatnot, but that wasn't the case. We expected Derrick to get 20 to 22, 23 carries, and the Titans, Malarkey went with a different game plan, and DeMarco had 14 carries for 115 yards and the touchdown, with Derrick going for 13 carries and 54 yards. So a balanced running attack, and we obviously saw what DeMarco did with the touchdown that he broke off. So talk about the running game.
Go ahead, Brett.
It looks good, finally. The first couple weeks it was sloppy, and we were wondering if DeMarco was even going to, play this week, because we talked about it, like you said, and we talked about – I brought up the fact of hit DeMarco for this past week just because he hasn't looked as good, and we know that he's injured. And even DeMarco said after the Jacksonville game, he made the decision that he was going to play against Seattle, which – we didn't know that until after the game, of course, so we didn't know what was going to play out. So I think when he broke off that 75-yard run, it gave the fans a sense of relief, just to know that even though he looked so sloppy the first 2 weeks, it's still in the tank. Even if he's not 100% healthy, he still produces. So I think it gave a lot of fans a sense of relief in the fact of, okay, he's still not 100%, and when he gets back to being 100%, then we know that he's going to be right back on track doing what we know he can do.
Yeah, totally. And it's a luxury to have two running backs like this. We were all kind of ready for the Derrick Henry era to start, maybe a little prematurely, but we don't need it to start, which is a great thing to have DeMarco Murray still playing at a high level. That 75-yard run obviously inflates his overall stats, but that's the point of running it over and over again, is so that you can break a big one like that. So, yeah, it is nice to see. And to be honest, if that was Henry in there on that play, I don't know if he would have taken it all the way. He might have ripped off a huge chunk, but the way DeMarco set up his blocks at the end of the run, that's a special trait. It's great to see the Titans run on a team that has a good front, even if they haven't been stopping the run so much so this year. They still have a great front seven, and the offensive line pushed them around in the second half.
One thing about that run too is the downfield blocking from the other guys that you continue to see. You saw Jalston Fowler down there. And even on Rashard's big play, when he took it for a touchdown, you saw Supernaw down there. You saw Jalston down there again. So it shows that the Titans don't necessarily – I mean, I'm not saying they give up, but they're in there as a team. There's no – and this is what John Robinson and it's what Malarkey preaches, that this is a team thing. They're not looking for any individual players. So to see Supernaw down there and to see Jalston Fowler continuing to block for the guys running – behind them, in front of them, it shows that, I mean, they're all really in this together.
And I'm about to be the Debbie Downer here, but is it just me, guys, or does DeMarco just still look sluggish? It doesn't look like the same DeMarco that we knew a year ago when he's breaking the whole thing. Like, for example, the Packers game last year when he just broke off the 75-yard run again, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
That run looked nothing like the one we saw on Sunday, and completely two different things. He was weaving in and out of things. Players, finding blocks and whatnot, but he just looks sluggish to me. He's always, and I could be wrong here, but if you guys remember Chris Johnson a lot, before he would get tackled, he would fall before he went down, and I'm noticing a lot now with DeMarco too. And I don't know I could care less if that's just the way they choose to go down or whatnot. But it instead of looking for the extra 2 to 3 yards to get the first down, maybe he's just settling to take the tackle. Before the first down, and that's just me being, looking at silly things to find on the field. But what's y'all's take on that?
I do think he doesn't look the same, like you said. I mean, if he had run with the same explosion in this game as he had on that Packers run, he wouldn't have needed to be avoiding tacklers 70 yards downfield. So, yeah, I totally agree. I don't know what's up, if he's going to get better without taking any games off. If it's just going to go away, but hopefully it does.
Honestly, I think that this sluggish stuff that we've been seeing, to me, it started last season. The past 3-4 weeks of the season, being at the games and everything like that, just me thinking and just talking with my friends and my family who are also Titans fans, it just didn't look the same. in week 3 and week 4 and the last 3 weeks of the season. And if you go back to the last home game last season against Houston, to me, I said it just doesn't look like DeMarco is 100%. And it came out after that week, after the season was over, that said he had been battling a toe injury and a hamstring injury for the last 3-4 weeks of the season. So I think when he's running the ball and he doesn't look like he's 100%, then he's definitely not 100% because he looks totally different from when he is 100% healthy and when he's not 100% healthy.
And this isn't a new thing for DeMarco. He had a great year in 2014, and he had a great year for us last year, but overall in his career, he's always kind of been dealing with those kinds of nagging injuries, and you hate to see that for any player, but that is kind of a thing with DeMarco. And I know he had a 75-yard run, he had 115 yards, and he had a great game, but I still think that the coaches should not play him until he's fully healthy to give him a chance to get there. And something to consider is he knows that Derrick Henry is really good, and he knows that he's coming for his job, and maybe he's pushing himself to get on the field when he's not fully healthy to stay the starter as long as he can. I don't know.
And with him, I mean, scoring that touchdown now, I don't see any reason to not believe that he's going to stay the starter. And we talked about that too last week, Justin, to hit on it real quick. Me personally just see it as I don't like the starter role. I could care less who starts for the Titans. It's all about winning. If just play well. It doesn't have to be a 1-2 who starts, who doesn't start. I just think I said it all year long, even on the Twitter page. Just who has the hot hand, let him keep it. And I mean that was DeMarco on Sunday. So
yeah, totally.
He threw to the rock more, and we ran with it. So
Austin, I think that's your quote of the year is feed the hot hand.
Now the quote of the year is now on Twitter that everybody loves is the tutty.
The tutty.
Everybody likes. So I'm gonna keep rolling with that. The touchdown a couple touchdowns we'll hit on real quick. The Rashard Matthews free play touchdown where the Seahawks went off sides, and just a beautiful screenplay. I don't know if that was the plan to get them to jump or whatnot, but the screen worked perfectly, and Rashard took it to the house.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a freeze by the outside defender because he thought maybe the play would get blown dead or something, and that might have sprung the initial breakout. Mariota's hard count is legit.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And talk about, I mean, it wasn't necessarily like it looked awesome, but what about the spin move that Matthews put on at the end, around all 3 guys that led him into the end zone too?
Put him in the spin cycle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. He almost ran into Decker when he spun too, so kind of freaked me out for a little bit there, but it was all good, of course.
And another guy that we talk about a lot is Eric Decker, and he's not had a lot of production yet. Could have had he had some big plays on Sunday that came back because of the refs, which we won't have to hit on because I feel like they screwed us more than they did them, even though we only had 5 penalties in the game. But he had a great catch on the sideline to set up the field goal.
Oh man, right there in front of Richard Sherman. Beautiful,
beautiful catch. I would just like to see Eric get involved more. I think he wants to get involved more. I don't know if he feels like the odd man out right now and not getting a lot of love or whatnot, but I think Marcus is starting to build that chemistry with him because we saw a lot of key plays with him down the stretch with Decker. So it's just me being another observation. Just want to see Decker get more involved because I think he has the hands to go up and get a ball, and seeing his feet on the sideline, he's got the playmaking ability to do so. I want to hit on the Jonnu touchdown real quick. The Jonnu Smith touchdown. And Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like to me you saw a out route and he came back up, okay? From what I saw, it looked like Jonnu the out route was for him. He was going for the out route, but he saw nobody in front of him, so he shifted his body, threw up his hand, and Marcus just found him. Did you see that, or was that the actual route?
I think that's possible, but it looked like a wheel to me where
probably so.
Yeah, where it's designed to go kind of around and up. I think the important thing to note about that play is, for me, I was getting frustrated watching this game because it seemed like on every first down, the Titans handed the ball off. And it worked a few times, but a lot of times it left us in second and long situations because, in the first half, the running game wasn't really going anywhere. But that Jonnu Smith touchdown was a first down play out of a heavy formation with Jonnu lined up as the fullback, and a hard play action that the entire Seattle team bit on. And part of that is because of the commitment to running the ball so many times in a row on first downs early in the game that, you come back to that same look later and play action. The linebacker that was supposed to be on Jonnu just totally froze when he saw that Mariota still had the ball, like looking around for somebody to go tackle, and Jonnu runs right past him, wide open. And great play for the rookie, touchdown 2 weeks in a row. It's pretty nice to see that from the 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, for sure. Brett, you got anything?
Yeah, that's a question I actually had for you, Justin. Was, we saw Jonnu come out of the backfield, and in the Jacksonville game, we saw Delaney take a run out of the backfield, and we've seen Taywan Taylor take a couple runs out of the backfield as well. Is that something that you think for a while, or is this just kind of like a thing that they're like, okay, hey, this looks like it'll work good right here, or just what's your take on that?
I think they have specific plays designed for specific areas of the field, and when they get in those looks, like depending on the hash mark and the distance to go for a first down and to the end zone and all those things, they have different scenarios, and they've definitely been working to get different players in the backfield, just because Mularkey loves to confuse the defense and provide multiple looks and do as much as he can, like that kind of stuff. So it's just a way to get all those players involved and use their strengths based on where they are in the field. Like Taylor is probably if he was a running back, he would be the quickest running back, So using him in that role, kind of the way the Chiefs use Tyreek Hill or the Packers use Randall Cobb, just to get him more touches in space so he can try to get in the open field and make something happen. And Jonnu is a versatile blocker and receiver out of that fullback spot, the H-back spot in the backfield, or lined up tight on the end. Same thing with Delaney. I mean, those two guys have very similar skill sets. One thing I was really impressed with Jonnu, the play before his touchdown, I don't know if you noticed this, he was blocking. I can't remember if it was pass block or run block now, but it was a one-on-one block, and he stood up his man, and it was just sealed him off a wall. It was a great blocking play. And then the very next play, he ran down field and caught a touchdown, almost like rewarding him for the great play. But it's nice to see him doing well in both, because a lot of rookie tight ends you see are just receivers. Like Evan Ingram with the Giants isn't doing a whole lot of blocking, and the Giants are paying for it with the worst offensive line.
Right, and I think Johnny was looking a whole lot more comfortable in the offense too. So that's something that can improve on too. And I think that's why John Robinson brought him here, because he knew he could do that. He could be that guy. That when Delaney's not having a good game, or when the eyes are on Delaney, the defense is watching Delaney, Jonnu Smith's right there. It's kind of a Delaney Walker 2.0. Follow him on Twitter at Titans Film Room. Follow us at Armchair Tighten Up. Justin, so what, in your opinion, you watch a lot of the games and break it down, what do you see schematically? What do the Titans do better offensively than a whole lot of other teams? What do you see that works more often than not?
That's a great question. One thing that comes to mind right away is the multiple looks they get in the running game. I saw a video on YouTube earlier today. I retweeted Inside the Pylon, posted a video looking at the Titans triple option, which the triple option is not supposed to work in the NFL. Just
No.
And it does, and there's multiple reasons for that. Number one is the threat of Mariota to run the ball. He's one of the better mobile quarterbacks in the league. He goes from 0 to 60. I don't know if you guys have seen the fastest player in the NFL, like recorded speeds. Mariota's on that list, and his longest run of the year is like less than 20 yards, I think. How does he get going that fast in that short space? It's very difficult to defend. You can even see defenders will be sometimes like in position-esque, not really though, because Mariota's too fast and can run right by them. And those different looks out of the running game really allow the offensive line to thrive. I mean, the offensive line is full of great players. Taylor Lewan is a great player. Jack Conklin is very good and wins in ways that he shouldn't win, just with brute force and strength. And but the way that the running game is designed helps those guys a lot, because they know who they're supposed to block. They're not confused by complicated man blocking schemes or anything like that. They just run forward and block the players in front of them. The guards are extremely good at pulling around and getting in front. And Josh Klein has been playing particularly well this year. I think having an offseason with Russ Grimm and with the rest of the team really helped him, because Obviously, last year he was claimed off waivers in September, right before week 1, and then became a starter midway through week 2. And he didn't really have a chance to like gel the way the rest of the guys did, but he was here for the whole spring offseason, and he looks really good in this system, this pulling guard system, where you never know if the handoff's going to go one way or if Mariota's going to take another way, or if Taywan Taylor or Delaney Walker or somebody's going to come around and get it on a reverse. And those multiple looks keep defenses guessing so much that it gives the running backs or whoever's carrying the ball a chance to get downfield a little bit before they're contacted. The yards before contact, I think the Titans are averaging or averaged against the Seahawks over 4 yards per carry before contact, which is crazy.
Yeah,
It's a good number for sure.
Brett, go ahead.
We look at, you were talking about how Marcus is such a good runner and one of the faster guys, and how the offensive line helps with the run. And one thing throughout Marcus's career is that it seems like when he throws the ball less, the offense gels better, they score more points. And if you go look at this season alone, week 1, Marcus threw the ball 41 times. And the Titans only scored 16 points. It was a 10-point loss, and people were questioning the play calls and what was going on. And you look at week 2, I think it was 35 times that he threw the ball. Offense looked a lot better, scored a lot more points. Then you go back to this week 2, and you look at it, and Marcus threw the ball 32 times. Offense scored well again. The running game opened up. So you can throw the ball a lot and still run the ball well and stuff like that, and the offense looked good. But why is it that when Marcus throws the ball less, that the offense seems to do better?
I think there's 2 reasons. One, when the team is winning, they go into a more conservative run the ball mode. Although we saw them with a multiple touchdown lead against the Jags and against the Seahawks, still throwing it on second downs and even some first downs and stuff. But that's one function of it. When you're behind, you throw to catch up quicker. But that's not the only reason. And I think that something that's great about Mariota as a quarterback is he's always been really efficient as a passer. His yards per attempt has always been really high. This season, I mean, against the Seahawks, it was only 7.0, which is modest for him. But on the season, he's averaging 7.4 yards per attempt. And he was above 9, I think, against the Jags. 7.96. But still, he's an efficient quarterback. So when he doesn't have to throw the ball as many times to make things happen. And it really helps when you have guys like Rashard Matthews and Jonnu Smith catching screen passes and taking it to the house, which happened 0 times last year. Mariota had I call them free touchdowns. Mariota didn't have a single free touchdown last year, meaning that every touchdown he threw, he had to earn it. Like either that was caught in the end zone or very close to the end zone. So it's really nice to see the guys around him helping him out more like that. Big plays obviously are a reason you don't have to attempt as many passes. So the winning game scripts, the Titans have been leading at least for a little bit and then a lot towards the end in the last 2 games. They never held a lead against Oakland. So those kinds of things definitely influence the number of pass attempts. But I think when Mariota's playing better, he's playing more efficient. He doesn't, like you said, he doesn't need to throw the ball as many times.
Do you think that's where his no, which is still an unbelievable stat, his no interceptions in the red zone? Do you think that's extremely efficient? And you sit there and talk about his throwing efficiency and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, totally. The red zone is most people consider the red zone to be a more difficult area to throw because the field is so compressed. There's 11 guys that don't have to defend backwards for 80 yards. It's only 20 yards. So you'd think it'd be more challenging, but Mariota, there's 2 things that Mariota does really well in the red zone. Well, I think there's 3 things, honestly. The first is that it's so much harder to mess up depth on a route as a receiver when there's not as much field in front of you. You can tell where you are better, I think. So I think his receivers run better routes in the red zone. Number 2, Mariota uses his eyes extremely well for any quarterback, let alone a 3rd-year quarterback. And he was doing this in his rookie year. He did it more last year, and he's been doing it routinely this season as well, is the no-look passes. He looks like he's throwing to a tight end and then hits the running back in the flat, or looks like he's throwing to a wide receiver on a zone shot and he hits the guy in the flat, or vice versa, whatever it is. And he was doing it in the preseason. He's been doing it this year too. There's that really famous, amongst Titans fans at least, touchdown pass he threw to Delaney Walker against the Chargers last year that went through like 4 guys. Just that eye manipulation combined with his accuracy. And this is a thing that is really it's not apparent and it's not talked about, and even like sites like Pro Football Focus, which account for throwaways, don't take this into account. But Mariota is so accurate. He can put the ball wherever he wants to. Of throw the ball in the wrong spot. There are times where he's throwing from a bad platform and he'll throw the ball high, super high, out of bounds over a receiver's head. The pass to Rashard Matthews on the second drive, or I think that like landed near the sideline when Matthews was running like a seam route. Right. Those are not on accident. Those are not misses. That is Mariota reading the play and throwing the ball away. And he is not afraid to throw the ball away. He doesn't care at all about his stats. So if he has one more incompletion that looks like a really bad throw, like obviously he doesn't care. All he cares about is winning, which is another great trait to have in a quarterback. But he doesn't get like credit for those things from national writers or even like Twitter scouts or anybody like that. But you can tell, like that pass to Eric Decker was like the window for that pass was tiny. He had a pass like that to Delaney Walker last week against the Jaguars that just like perfectly fits it in to those windows. His accuracy is, and that accuracy is one of the things that makes him so good in the red zone, because he doesn't throw the ball where he's not trying to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can notice that too off a play of last week against Jacksonville with the Taywan Taylor pass.
Right.
I mean, as fast as Taywan was running and the placement Marcus had to put it there against a very good cornerback in A.J. Boye. I mean, it was in the perfect spot for Taywan. So, yeah, I completely agree with you, Justin. Let's end on this. Let's move on. And Corey Davis out again for the second straight week. Still nursing the hamstring injury, so he will not play against Houston. When he's back, though, Justin, what does he bring to the table, and how does he change the Titans' offense?
I think we saw some of that in week 1, and he wasn't even fully healthy in week 1. But the thing he can do that none of the other receivers on the Titans can do, and I love Rashard Matthews. I think he's super underrated. I love what Eric Decker brings. Taywan Taylor adds a great element, but nobody can just one-on-one jump over a cornerback and snatch the ball out of the air the way that Corey Davis can. And we saw that on a 3rd and long against the Raiders, which, I mean, that is such a valuable thing to have in an offense. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card. You're in 3rd and long after 2 negative plays, and you just throw it up to a receiver in single coverage who you can trust to beat his man. The thing is, I don't know if Corey Davis is going to bring that right away, and there's 2 reasons. Number one, is he good enough? He's a rookie, like he's not going to be super consistent. He's going to make those plays, but he's also going to have the ones like we saw against the Raiders where he ran inside and Mariota threw it outside. Like, you just got to go through those rookie pains. And number 2, is Mariota going to trust him to do that? Because Mariota is a more risk-averse quarterback when he can be. He'll take shots into tight windows for sure, but he doesn't usually just throw it up to a receiver and give them a chance to catch it. And maybe that's because he doesn't have receivers that can do that, and he honestly has never had them, even dating back to his time at Oregon. So maybe he doesn't know what that's like to have, but I think that element of just being able to outmuscle a cornerback for a one-on-one ball and convert big plays is a huge element. And that doesn't even consider Corey Davis's ability as just a runner after the catch, an elusive runner after the catch. We haven't seen too much of that yet, but he did it in college, and there's no reason to think that skill won't translate to the next level.
You talked about the Marcus not really having the receivers dating back to college, anything like that. And if you really think about it, the Titans haven't had a receiver with his capabilities in who knows how long. I mean, really, it might go back to Derek Mason, Kevin Dyson era, like in the early 2000s. Because, over the past, go back to 2008, the last time the Titans were really good and when they went 13-3, the best receiver that the Titans have had probably these past 10 years is probably Nate Washington.
I would say, yeah, I would agree,
yeah,
Brett.
It'd be Nate Washington.
Yeah, Nate, you saw a glimpse of Kenny Brett, but go ahead.
Yeah, Kenny Brett had 2 games where we were like, Kenny Brett.
Yeah.
I was there for that Eagles game where he had I tweeted out a few weeks ago. I think 7 catches for 225 yards. What? I mean, that's never gonna.
Yeah.
We're not gonna see that
Yeah.
again in a long time until one of these guys do it. But yeah, go ahead, Brett. Though, I'm sorry.
So like we were saying, Nate is probably the best receiver the Titans have had, and maybe since Kevin Dyson or since Derek Mason. And there was hopes that Justin Hunter would be the guy that people are maybe hoping Corey Davis, because Justin Hunter was quick. When he played at Tennessee, he was tough, but he never developed it. And same thing with Kenny Britt. So what are, I guess, the hopes for Corey Davis for the long term? Because this is a long-term plan with Corey Davis. So are there chances that he sits out maybe longer, because this is the guy that with the potential to maybe be the best receiver the Titans have ever had? So what are the future plans you would think for Corey Davis?
I think that he should be the best receiver the Titans have ever had. If he's not, then he wasn't technically worth the 5th pick in the draft, right? But I mean, the Titans have had first-round receivers before. Kendall Wright, Kenny Britt are the last two that come to mind. I won't mention Tyrone Calico.
Oh, man.
But the difference between – I mean, there's lots of differences, but the biggest one to me is that, I mean, Kendall Wright first was extremely overdrafted in the first round. He wasn't a first-round pick.
And he's a slot guy, too. He's a slot guy.
You just don't pick receivers like Kendall Wright that high in the draft. I'm sorry. And it's not a size thing. It's just he wasn't a first-round receiver. So what were they doing?
I agree.
Kenny Britt didn't have it all together.
In the head.
Exactly.
One thing that Corey Davis has shown so far that none of those guys ever showed is the understanding and the maturity to know that you don't get good by just showing up in the morning and leaving when practice ends. Like, every quote that's come out of the facility about Corey Davis, and of course they're not going to say anything bad, but that doesn't mean they have to say good things. And they are saying good things. Malarkey practically gushed about him today in the press conference today. He was asked how Corey's taking it. Like, is he frustrated? And Malarkey said something like, well, I would hope he's frustrated. Any competitor should be frustrated, but if he is, he's not showing it. He's an amazing kid. He has the best attitude, just amazing things he said about him, about his work ethic and his attitude. So you would hope that Corey Davis can be, if you think about the types of receivers that were drafted in the same range, AJ Green, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, you would hope that he can be Amari Cooper, a guy like those guys. There's also Kevin White, who doesn't really look like anything right now. Tavon Austin, but that was just a bad draft pick.
Yeah.
Right.
The difference is Corey Davis looks like he's going to be good, right?
Absolutely. No, yeah, without a doubt. But what you saw in college, you would have to say that. I mean, statistically one of the best college receivers ever. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, those numbers don't lie. And, yeah, you can point to the list of the best college receivers ever, and most of them never amounted to anything. But there's traits that you see on tape, the ability to set up a cornerback in his route stem, the head movements, the run after catch ability, strength at the catch point. Just because he was playing against lesser competition, those traits don't change. Those traits would show up against better competition, and they did when he played Power 5 schools. So, I mean, I'm a full believer in Corey Davis. I was on board before we drafted him. I wanted him. Mm-hmm. He was my favorite receiver in the draft. I was ecstatic when the Titans took him, and I really think he's going to bring that dimension. But I do agree that they might be looking at their offense right now, thinking we just scored over 30 points against two really good defenses. Corey Davis is not 100% yet. We have Rashard Matthews, Eric Decker, Taywan Taylor. Do we really need to throw him out there right now? And I think that might be the attitude behind closed doors, is let's just make sure he's healthy.
I think that's one thing that helps the Titans is I completely agree with you in the fact that Rashard Matthews is underrated. If he doesn't get hurt in Miami, I think it was 2 times that he got hurt there, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. And last year he had 950 yards. And if the Titans don't have Delaney or somebody else, he's a 1,000-yard receiver again. So I think it helps in the fact of the Titans know they have somebody that they can trust. Even if Rashard's not a true number 1 receiver in the league, he can at least be a true number 1 receiver for the Titans for now, and they can be patient with Corey for the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just to point it out, Rashard Matthews' last 16 games, because he wasn't really that involved in the offense until Andre Johnson retired last year. which I love everything Malarkey's doing with this football team and the culture and everything. There is one thing I question a lot, which is his personnel decisions. Like, why is Eric Weems ever playing receiver ever? Why was Andre Johnson playing over Rashard Matthews for so long? Too long. But if you just look at Rashard Matthews' last 16 games, 69 catches, 1,048 yards, 10 touchdowns, 15.2 yards per reception, and has a touchdown or 70-plus yards in 13 of those 16 games. That's from Evan Silva on Twitter. But those numbers are number one receiver numbers. Rashard Matthews doesn't profile as your typical number one receiver the way Corey Davis does, but he's good enough to hold down the fort while Davis gets healthy.
So let's talk about we could discuss this. It's just a touchy subject. I know with everything going on in the NFL right now, the Titans were one of those teams that protested the anthem. Okay, and this could be just a quick conversation, guys. We don't have to get political views. That's not what this is about. But first reaction when the Titans did not come out on Sunday, that they decided to stay in the locker room, but they walked out together arm in arm. What did you guys think about that?
Surprising, kind of honestly. We knew that there were breaking news reports before the game that Pittsburgh had thought about and was most likely going to stay in the locker room. And after the game, we found out that they kind of stayed in the tunnel and stood, which I think people respected a little bit more than the fact of they weren't necessarily sitting down and kneeling or whatever in the locker room. They're at least kind of there. But on the Titans' sake, I think it was a little bit surprising just because people didn't know that it was going to happen. I think that's the only thing is if they saw them out there on the field, which, I mean, you expect to see people out there on the field, then it would be different. But when the Titans didn't walk out and the national anthem started, I think it just caught just about everybody in the stadium off guard.
Yeah, I mean, the two sides to this both have really good legs to stand on, I think. So it's a really, like you said, touchy subject. But I think the Titans' display of unity was better than if they had come out and, let's say, 20, 15 players had kneeled. Now those 15 or 20 players would be the target of media attention that they definitely wouldn't want. It also sends a message that, I mean, it doesn't really send that message, but if the team looks ununified versus the opportunity to look unified, I think it was smart of them to choose to look unified in that instance and protect the players that did want to kneel, even if Rashard Matthews and Delaney Walker have both come out and talked openly about it afterwards.
Yeah.
But.
And Delaney's being very opinionated about it, and I think he's getting a lot of backlash on Twitter for it right now. I saw a lot of tweets from him today just saying, if you don't like it, don't come to games and whatnot, which is true. For those fans who have been fair weather Titans fans, okay, because we know a lot. Those fans that would sell their tickets when the team was 2-14 or when the team was 4-12 or whatnot. Those are probably the same fans who are now not coming now and Facebooking their opinions and whatnot. So you got to just take it with a grain of salt. And like I said, I don't want to get too much into this because it's not important. But for those Titans fans who are true fans, we'll support them through thick and thin. And if they choose to – because the thing is, man, it's not just the Titans. It's the entire NFL. So if you look at just the Titans, you're going to have to look at everybody else.
I think the most important note to make on this, and this is kind of like where the compromise should fall, is the players don't mean any disrespect, right? To the military, to the country, of course, obviously, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
But they have chosen to protest in a way that can be, and obviously is, interpreted as disrespectful. And I actually think what the Cowboys did on Monday Night Football was a pretty cool, middle ground.
I agree.
They all took a lot better compromise,
right? They took a knee together. They made
with the owner.
With the owner, which was a really funny and cool picture of Jerry Jones. But they made their stand, their demonstration, and then they showed their respect to the country. They were able to do both at the same time. And to be totally honest, I'm of the opinion that you have the right to do whatever you want, even if it was disrespectful on purpose, which it's not.
Right.
Even if it is disrespectful on purpose, this is America. That's the whole point. You're allowed to be disrespectful on purpose. You know, there are countries like North Korea and China where you can't say anything bad about the governing body at all. Like, that's the amazing part of being in America. But even so, it is being interpreted as disrespectful. And the players should like kind of realize that and think, maybe this isn't the most effective way to get our message across. I don't know.
All right, so I'm gonna give you all some stats real quick. Through 3 games, our man Jim White's tweeted these out, so I kind of looked it up too. The Titans are averaging 380. Do what?
I'm sorry, he's been on fire with those stats though.
He has, dude. He really has. Every week. So the Titans are averaging 386 yards on offense, which is quite a bit, in my opinion. It's more than we've seen in the past couple of years. So they're the 5th total offense, which is nice. 15th in passing, which is up from a couple seasons. 2nd in rushing, which is no surprise. On the defensive side, they're giving up 367 yards per game. They are the 20th total defense, 26th in passing, and 16th in rushing. Not a real surprise on that side of the ball, to tell you the truth. We know that the secondary is not what it needs to be, and they still need work. And I think we'll address that off-season draft, whatever. They'll come. We'll talk about that later. The 16th in rushing is surprising to me a little bit because I know how dominant they were a season ago with the run blocking. They bring in Jonathan Cyprien. He's banged up right now. So hopefully when down the road, when the team starts meshing more, all the stats will rise. But that's just of now. All right, let's talk about the Texans. This week in Houston, the Titans go for the 3rd straight win in a row. They did it a season ago, actually. I was looking up some stats. They beat the Bears, Broncos, and Chiefs last year, all 3 straight. So can they do it again? What do the Titans need to do to keep the momentum going? Shoot.
The Titans, I mean, yeah, obviously they can do it. We've seen Houston, man, I think Houston surprised a lot of people last week with the way that they played against New England. And, I mean, really probably not necessarily should have won the game because Brandon Cooks had an awesome catch in the end zone where he put with the toe tap in the corner. But I think they surprised a lot of people in the way that they played. And you saw Deshaun Watson was so elusive in the backfield and not being sacked at all. So I think that's one thing that the Titans are going to have to figure out. And Justin, this was actually a question that I had for you was the Raiders, which is an offensive-minded team for sure, even though they have an okay defense. The Titans had 2 sacks. Week 2 against Jacksonville, against a defensive team more or less with a – honestly, I'm just going to say that in Blake Bortles. They had 2 more sacks. But last week against Seattle, a team with a horrible offensive line, and a team that had not played well offensively at all, the Titans only had 1. So they moved to week 4 with 5 total sacks against a quarterback that's extremely elusive. And we saw him break out of so many sacks against New England last week. What is one thing that the Titans are going to have to do to try and contain Deshaun Watson and not let him get out of the backfield?
It's a good question. I am a little disappointed in the Titans sack number so far. I mean, the thing is they're getting pressure like crazy. Mm-hmm. Even last week, Jim Wyatt put this in his recap article, but the Titans had 34 pressures against the Seahawks. 43% of snaps. They hit him 10 times. It just couldn't bring him down.
He got away so many times. That was what was so aggravating because I put in our preview article. That was the Titans' main goal, in my opinion, was just to get to Russell Wilson. And you saw a lot of times he would break off and find a run, or he just throw it down the field to Doug Baldwin, who had a big game as well. We didn't mention. But go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And the thing was just wrapping up and bringing him to the ground. Arakpo almost had him early in the game, and then the drive, their last drive, I think he had 2 or 3 plays alone on that drive that should have been sacks. The 4th down play was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable play. But you really can't defend against that. Deshaun Watson had a really similar play against the Patriots. It was a 3rd and 10. He only threw the ball for 2 yards, and they ended up punting on 4th down. But it was the same thing. He was like in the grass with defender, knees just off the ground, gets the throw off. So that will be a challenge for the Titans defense. Hopefully they can learn from this week against the Seahawks and understand that you have to wrap up and you have to wrap up in a way, like if you're going for him high, you've got to get your arms around his arms. If you're coming from behind, you have to grab hold and don't let go. But Deshaun Watson is not Russell Wilson. And that is an important distinction, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
He had 2 amazing plays in this game and they were both touchdown passes. I'm talking about Watson in the Texans-Patriots game. The first one to Bruce Ellington on a deep post, looks off the safety, Devin McCourty, which is not easy to do. Devin McCourty is a great safety, and fires a pass to Ellington. It was a little behind, but it was a good enough pass. Obviously, it was a touchdown. And then like 2 drives later, or maybe a little bit later, but he did the same thing to Ryan Griffin, hit him perfectly it was more of a seam route than a post, but he looked off the safety to the left and then hit Griffin for the touchdown. And Deshaun Watson has had a lot of problems so far staring down his receivers, which is actually working in his favor on these plays where he looks off the safety, because he is staring down receivers a lot still. He did it in this game a lot. But when he stares one way for 2 seconds and then comes off at the last second, the safety is biting on that stare down. So he's kind of using it to his advantage. But hopefully the Titans can contain him and keep him in the pocket, because he's not making those plays from the pocket. I mean, those 2 plays were from the pocket, but he's not making the majority of his big plays from the pocket. And I actually don't think the Titans will do that, because Malarkey last week, when they asked him about Russell Wilson and if they would do this kind of thing with Russell Wilson, he said, no, we're going after him and we're going to go get him, which is, I think, the wrong strategy, in my opinion. Especially a young rookie quarterback like Watson, who's going to panic when he thinks it's time to leave the pocket. He's going to try to roll out, even if he has a clean pocket. That's what rookie quarterbacks do, and he's been doing that. So we'll see if the Titans can actually get to him and wrap him up.
Yeah, I think the main goal this week is just to make this rookie quarterback feel uncomfortable the entire game. Put the pressure on him. And the Titans have not really had a chance to get a takeaway, get an interception. We've had the 2 interceptions in Jacksonville were off the tip balls. So I would like to just see something drawn up where, in man-to-man coverage where Watson has nowhere else to go and has to just throw one up, and Kevin Byard finally gets his first interception, or
finally, yeah, seriously.
Somebody, yeah, or Adoree, does what Adoree does and just turns around and him making plays on the ball at all times. So I think I would want to see this week just more, I guess, pressure in the secondary as well, just to make Watson feel as comfortable as possible. And we always have a segment here, Justin, where we talk about give for this game. Give us your prediction. You don't have to do score if you don't want to. We've been pretty bad all year long. The Titans been 3-0, so we don't really see the Titans losing at all this year. So we're trying to find a game where they do lose, and I truly don't believe it's this one either. Just because I think the Titans are now in a rhythm, and they see that their schedule gets a little bit easier right now. As Brett looks in the background, he always looks at the schedule. So this is also what we have been preaching for so long. It's another AFC South game. And so to win the division, you have to win the ones inside the division. And you had one 2 weeks ago, and you got to get another one now. So to beat to compete with Big Brother, you have to beat Big Brother. And it starts right now. So
man, that's bold calling Houston the Big Brother.
But it's been that way for a couple of years.
Yeah, they won the division. I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying, though.
It sucks to say that, but it's so true, because the Titans have not been, there in 9 years. So I'm going to give my hot take one more time, Brett. Okay, it's finally going to happen, because it should have happened last week, and the refs screwed them. I looked at the camera, Justin. I said, Adoree Jackson's going to have a touchdown, and it should have happened. And as soon as it happened, I about texted Brett and said, dude, my hot take was right, and it came back. I just can't.
A weak blocking the back call.
Awful.
Was it Ty Smith? Is that who they called it on?
They ended up calling it on Fluellen.
Yeah, it was Fluellen, yeah.
And it was, by the technical sense, he touched his back with his hands. But if you watch the play,
his hands, he went up in the air immediately, like I didn't push him.
Immediately, and Malarkey said it multiple times in multiple press conferences. If you put your hands up in the air, the ref's going to throw the flag, thinking you're guilty because you're making yourself look guilty, which is a true thing. Right. He shouldn't have done that.
Even though his arms didn't even extend.
They didn't. They really didn't. I mean, it was the lightest amount of contact, and if Ty Smith hadn't have also been right there to like run into him, it wouldn't have looked like anything, and I doubt they would have thrown the flag.
Right. So I'm going to do it again, and I know where you talked about in your the gifts, the Texans special teams. You saw, was it Amendola last week, I believe. Is that right? And maybe somebody else. Yeah. Okay. It was one of those Patriot white guys. I don't know who it was. Somebody. I don't know about they're not as strong on special teams, so I can see Adoree doing some Adoree things. Maybe Housen win. If not Housen win, at least getting a good amount of bit of yardage on each punt return. So that's one hot take. I'm going to do another one just because I'm going to keep riding with that hot take until it actually happens. I'm going Marcus Mariota throws 3 touchdown passes. So that's my hot take. I'm going 3.
All right. My hot take for this week is Kevin Byard gets his first interception. Finally.
Rod Raiders ride.
Byard is quite possibly my favorite, one of my, if not close to being. He talks about he's not a box safety. He's the center fielder of the defense, and he embraces that too. He loves it. And so you see guys like CJ Fedorowicz is on the IR with his concussion. So Will Fuller hasn't really, I guess, eloped to what they would want him to be. They have DeAndre Hopkins. That's their main guy. I feel like it's not being as good as people might think it is, that they're going to try and attack our secondary and throw it to DeAndre Hopkins more. And, man, Byers is going to be sitting right there just waiting for his first career interception, and he's going to get it this week. That's my hot take.
I think it's possible. The Texans or the Patriots got an interception on Watson on a 4-man rush, man-to-man coverage downfield with one safety, and the strong safety came up and played robber in the middle of the field, kind of spying on Watson. I expect us to do that a lot with Jayon Brown, spy Watson.
I like it.
4-man rush and just overpowered a bad left tackle who's playing for Dwayne Brown while he holds out, and got to Watson, pressure on him, threw it off his back foot, staring down Hopkins from the snap, and then threw it to him. Bad throw. Easy interception for Gilmore. I could totally see the Titans using Byard to roam back there, making Watson think he has a one-on-one when he doesn't. If I had to give a hot take, I would say Titans offensive line shuts out the Texans D line. No sacks 2 weeks in a row.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. I like that because
especially with J.J. Watt's history against the Titans too.
And this is the first matchup they've been talking about with Marcus and J.J. Watt. So we'll finally see those two together. I like it. Those are good hot takes from all of us. I do.
And there's no Mettenberger there anymore for JJ to make fun of.
No statue to just easily sack.
no selfies. So Titans win in my opinion. Brett, Titans win.
Titans win.
Justin.
Look, I think the Titans are going to win every game on their schedule, but they're not. They're not going to. But the Titans have finally reached a place where it's actually reasonable to predict them to win every matchup. The problem is that they're a young team. They're going to be inconsistent. They're going to lay a classic egg. Honestly, the improvements on defense have saved this team the last 2 weeks because they're starting the same way they did in bad games last year. The defense is keeping it close this time so that when they finally get going, they're not down 2 or 3 touchdowns. But I think it'd be really cool if our rookie punt returner takes it to the house to seal the game in week 4 against Houston, the same way their rookie punt returner did to us last year. The full circleness of that would be a great thing.
That'd be huge. And we'll leave y'all with this. I think the Titans are now finding ways to finish the game. They're finishing off, and it may not be pretty. They may be giving garbage yards to Russell Wilson in the fourth quarter and Blake Bortles, but they're still winning. They're not finding a way to lose the game. If it happens to be that Ryan stuck up field goal to put him over the edge to make it a 3-score game,
just like Kansas City. Man, I love that.
Yeah. So, Justin, man, we appreciate your time. Thank you for the knowledge and the wise words of the Titans, man. We had fun. Like we said, follow him on Twitter at Titans Film Room. Give us a follow at Armchair Tighten Up. For Justin, Brett, I'm Austin Nelson. Tighten up.
Tighten up.
Tighten up.